Almost got me. Almost got me. Grand Rising, everybody, man. Hopefully, everybody's starting off this lovely Friday AM or PM if it's Finn's case. Uh, Life is amazing. Life is amazing. All right. So is this kind of the end of positivity week? I don't know. But I tell you what, I've been loving it. I've been enjoying it, and I'm appreciating a lot of y'all joining in on it as well. If I can get these words out, especially Finn is always showing love on X with some amazing posts. I hope y'all get to see those on X. Matter of fact, we're gonna start. Sometimes things only make sense when I'm talking to y'all. That's why it's important for me to get on here and talk to y'all, because sometimes things only make sense when I'm on here talking to y'all. So I'll make sure that we start including in the show some of Finn's amazing contributions, because it really is. My parents and I, Finn, were talking about you the other day. My dad was like, "Yo, you know Finn? Like, you know Finn?" I'm like, "Nah, Dad, that's family. But yeah, we just, this is just with the OG network. And he's like, "Oh, okay." Just because that's what it is. That's what we're fortunate to have. That's what we're all blessed to have. So we definitely got to make sure that we're highlighting everybody's amazing contribution. So how y'all doing, man? How y'all doing? How's your week wrapping up? Hopefully, I don't think we mentioned it on Monday, but hopefully, y'all know what we set out every week to do is to make this our most amazing week ever, our greatest week ever. So hopefully we have the opportunity to compete to do so and finish up. Bubbles, you don't have X? No worries. No worries. If you don't have X, don't worry about it. Like I said, this is what the show's for. This is what we have this for. So we'll highlight it on here from now on. So first off, let's start off. We got some amazing quotes I saw coming in bright and early. And as y'all, I know that y'all already have, but just do me a favor, just a reminder in case you haven't. Hit that like button, hit that like button. But Big Bro said, kindness is invincible, provided it is sincere, without hypocrisy or calculation. The Honorable Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, Book 11. Sorry. Oh man, Maya done pushed this on me. She's like, you better start taking some oil of oregano. Shout out to Big Bro Steve. We got Big Bro Steve's oil of oregano. It's like, you better start taking some oil of oregano. Allergy season is going to be bad because it got warm early. And I'm like, yo, stop pushing that energy on me. And now I get down to Florida, and hold on, I got to mute for a sec because I got a little. And now it's like, here we go. But it doesn't matter. And you know what it also may be? I got in the steam room last night, probably at around like 1:00. So maybe things are starting to still are exiting the system. So maybe that's it. So I can't blame her for everything. Ask yourself with every action, what is this for? Let every act aim at something good for humankind. The Honorable Marcus Aurelius. This is from book 3, if I got the Roman numerals correct. Meditations. Ask yourself with every action, what is this for? Let every act aim at something good for humankind. This quote it reminds me of a video that we're going to watch with Terrence Howard and Patrick Bet-David. Interesting conversation that the two of them were having. And I think that this quote is going to directly align to that. So appreciate you, Big Bro, as always. Bubbles, shout out to Bubbles in the building, bright and early. And Finn and Bubbles were on. So maybe this is also why I'm on a little bit of a high today, because we did our first scripture study, book study, whatever it is that you want to call it, right? Everything we do is inspired by God. So I guess we can call it scripture study. But we were reading this book right here, The Richest Man in Babylon. And we were doing a book study. It was with me and my young boy, Jakai Chance. And Jakai, man, he's a special young man. And Finn, you know what's funny? I was thinking about it before. I have pictures of Jakai actually in the program that we used to do. We used to have the OG Foundation where we did a program. I think I was telling y'all when I was going back and forth with my brother HCB, we were talking about this program that we used to do. And Jakai is actually in the program. And in the program, he's probably about, I don't know, about 6, 7 years old. And now, fast forward, he's a part of this program that we do with my mom, and I mainly did it. And then we had the support of our family and friends. But a lot of the burden fell on my mom, who, in case y'all didn't know, she was a teacher in town for about 35 years. And we would, after school, we would meet with a bunch of the kids in town, go to the local park, and they had a park house, and we'd be in there just doing fun stuff. The kids, they play around outside, and we bring them in, and we go over reading, writing. We'd have a writing exercise for them every day, and they'd go through it. Then they have to actually say it out loud, get in front of the class, and now it turned into a speaking assignment, and then they get questions. So a lot of times that would turn into a little bit of a debate back and forth where you got to stand on the things that you're saying and provide some reasoning behind them. And then we do all types of stuff, play, like I said the other day, we play Monopoly, talk about real estate, different things. We'd have the kids serve the food. So they learned about proper etiquette. They'd clean up, everybody had chores, and we talk about history as well. So it was cool. But Jakai was in the program, and now, like I said, fast forward, we're doing a book study, and you give a young kid an assignment to read a book, and you don't tell him anything. You just say, hey, we're going to discuss the book on this date at this time. He's never been on live, doesn't even have social media anymore right now, and he just says, okay. And then we get on there, and he's in the car with his girlfriend, and he's just fully engaged, and it was dope, man. It was dope. I texted him afterwards because I was hoping that it was as a fraction of as good to him as it was for me selfishly. So now I'm rambling, but let's keep it moving. I think I saw Unc in the building. Yes, sir. What's up, Unc? I'm back in your hood, man. Unc. Grandma Rising, good morning, Finn, Steve, Leslie, and family. One love always, man. For sure. Definitely always appreciate Unc in the building. Y'all know Unc's been here day one, Unc. All right, let's hold on. Let's see. I like this type of energy, Finn. Got a feeling it's going to be a great day, great energy, and lots of positivity, 100%. We're gonna create it, right? We create our reality. Where's Mama Lay? I know she's here somewhere. Here she go. As soon as we're talking about creating our own reality. Hey, family, I'm here. Just have a busy morning. Look who's in Florida. Maybe that won't. I forgot to mention that. So maybe that's also why I'm feeling this positivity this AM. But yeah, you wake up here and it's like, what is it? Hold on. Let me tell y'all. Let me tell y'all the weather right now. Let me tell y'all. Oh, that was book 7? My dad said that may have been book 7. See, my Roman numerals may have been off. Is it when the smaller numbers in the beginning? You're right. My dad caught me. Hold on. When the smaller numbers in the beginning, don't you subtract? I don't know. All right, my dad said it's book 7. So we're going to go with that. What was I going to say? Dang, I lost my train of thought. I forgot. I was checking the weather. All right, so it is... it's 73 degrees right now. It actually feels warmer than that. It's a little sticky. When I don't know, maybe like I said, I was still hot. I don't know about y'all. When you get into the sauna or steam room late at night, it still impacts me in the AM. So yeah. Shout out to Alex in the building, Grand Rise, and everyone. Have a fantastic Friday. Move when your cheese moves. That's dope. Mama Lay said oil of oregano is a staple in my house. Why am I not surprised? If you know, you know. Alex, you just started that book? All right, so Alex, every Thursday. Matter of fact, well, we did the first half of the book last night. You could check that out. You could check it out. It's a live stream on our page. And then that's on the OG network. Well, it may have been on both. Yeah, it's on both. And then we're going to do the second half of the book next week, Thursday at 9 p.m., I believe. So definitely tap in. Dope conversation. That is wild. And what's wild about it is we were reading another book. We decided on another book, but then when my boy posted that he was reading this book, who I actually was supposed to do, he wrote a book about something similar about projecting and the energy that we put out into the universe. He wrote a book. Shout out to my boy Ye. Danye Kamal. And then he was talking about this book. So I was like, you know what, let's read this book. Then we'll circle back to a few of the other books, including his book. But it takes a couple weeks to get his book. So I'll have to give y'all the heads up on that one. George S. Clayson. George S. Clayson, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And Mama Lay, let me know if you want to get down. I owe you this. It's my turn to get you a book because you got the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success for me, which is sitting right up there, which I appreciate. Shout out to Michelle in the building. Happy Friday the 13th. How do I know it's Friday the 13th? I was talking to a customer service agent last week about something. I don't know. And she was a sweet lady. And she was telling me that her birthday was today, Friday the 13th. So whoever that sweet lady was in customer service, I hope you're enjoying your birthday or you have a great birthday. There we go. Mr. Caldwell is correct. Book 7. Oh, shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Caldwell. Hopefully, I think my mom, she's probably on the way to her workout at the Y. So and Paula in the building. Shout out to Paula. Paula, you are missed. You are missed. And Paula's got a playlist out. She's got her playlist out that we got to check out. I saw Finn checking it out. So maybe, matter of fact, we'll start incorporating some of Paula's playlists before the show when we're doing our countdown, or just, put it on in the background and y'all can see me scrambling at like 7:55 or 7:50, getting the show together and everything like that. But yeah, all right. Shout out to John in the building. My fault, I missed my brother John. I'm deep into a Spanish novel I can't put down at the moment. What's the Spanish novel? What's the novel that you're reading? As long as you're reading, and this is, once again, and I'm gonna step away for a second just to grab a tissue, but Professor Zhang, so hopefully y'all can still hear me. Professor Zhang said that the most rebellious thing that we can do is to read a book. Read a book. That's what Professor Zhang said. He said the most rebellious thing that we can do right now is to disconnect from society and read a book. Give me 1 second. Let me just blow. This is why I don't mute it when I blow my nose. Dad, it's working now. My dad's calling me. Let's see what he's talking about. What's up, Dad? Yeah, it's on now. I realized. You want to say anything to the people? Oh, he already hung up. Oh man. It's once a show is going to happen. And I swear it was some good stuff that I was saying. I'm going to try to recap it quickly and then I rush through it now. But what I was saying is let me stand up, let me interact with y'all a little bit. I feel better standing up. But what I also was saying is that I don't know if y'all get this same feeling when it comes to reading, but reading is a very spiritual process. It's a very spiritual process for me. And as I was reading on the plane yesterday, I was just sitting there and it was a time for reflection. And what it also was a time of accountability where I'm reading. I don't know if y'all have ever read this, but the lessons in here, it's giving you very practical, direct lessons and guides. And, here it is where, we pay all this money for financial advice here and there, or some of us may or may not. This book probably costs about $10 and it's giving you every single piece of game. And they're tapping into stories from probably thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago. And it's just making everything make sense. So when I said it's also an accountability, I'm reading this book and it's like, bro, all of these lessons or some of these lessons, you knew. Even though it serves as a refresher, you knew. And you got to tighten up and figure out how to start actually following through with a lot of these things that this book is saying. And also, there's the period there. And then you get to reading a little bit more and then you pat yourself on the back for certain things because you're like, all right, well, I'm doing a little bit of that. I'm moving in the right direction. And then it gets you to the point where it's like it'll tear you down and build you up. And it reminds me of, I guess, one of these videos that we're getting ready to actually watch with Napoleon Hill, how he discusses how right before we're getting ready to have something amazing happen to us, or the potential of something amazing happening to us, we get tested. We get tested hard. And this is what Napoleon Hill said, that's God's way of just making sure that we're built for the reward that's getting ready to come, the blessing that's getting ready to come. So there we go. Shout out to Critical in the building. Sound has, Paula said, sound has dropped, or is it just me? Holy crap. Hey, I told Maya yesterday, I've been playing around working out. But I'm getting ready to start taking it seriously again. And I was giving myself excuses for a few weeks, but yeah, I'm getting ready to start taking it serious again. And y'all gonna get some videos. Y'all gonna get some workout videos too, of all levels. So from beginner to advanced, right? And a lot of this stuff I'm in the mindset of back to the basics in a lot of ways. So a lot of this stuff is simple. Critical said, how I used to judge people, I would fight if they had traps and shoulders. I knew it was going to be a fight in the cage. Yo, shout out to Critical, man. Love that guy, man. Love Critical. All right, so let's get into some of the show today. What are we going to start with? I wanted to start with this video of Muhammad Ali, actually. This video of Muhammad Ali, because I think in the thumbnail we asked ourselves this, but it's like, what's the price of peace? We talk about the price of certain things, and it's like, what's the price of peace? And I'm now drawing the conclusion on my own. I don't know if this is the same with what you guys would agree with, but my conclusion is that the price of peace comes at a higher price than the price of war, than the price of, and in different ways, in a lot of, how can I explain it? Where sometimes in order to bring about peace, like it's harder sometimes to walk away from a confrontation. It's harder to figure out a problem in a lot of ways with just having a coffee and sitting down and talking. And that shouldn't be the case, right? It shouldn't be the case. It should be maybe that says a lot about our society, whereas it's harder to just sit down and talk and to compromise rather than it is to, you know what, we'll just go to war and just kill each other. Don't worry. Well, we're not going to actually kill each other, but we'll have our pawns and peasants fight and they'll kill each other. And then we'll figure out, eventually, I guess we'll sit down at the table and then we'll compromise later. But, we'll do some killing and then one side will probably have more leverage over the other. So therefore, this conversation, this cup of coffee, it'll be easier to discuss new terms based on, who kills the most people and who has the most leverage. So this price of peace. And I think a lot of times we have to all ask ourselves, what is the price of peace? We're going to listen to a video from Muhammad Ali, and then I want y'all to take a look at this conversation that Tucker Carlson was having, where they were discussing what happens if a general in the army decides that his conscience won't allow him to move forward with a particular mission. So let's pull up this Muhammad Ali. It's a short video, so we'll get through this rather quickly. Let me share the screen. I like standing up. I don't know why. I used to stand up for the show. I guess I got lazy. All right, let's take a look at this. You guys, let me know your thoughts.
Have you thought about jail, what it might mean? Have you talked about people who've been in jail 5 years?
We are taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that black people actually have been in jail for 400 years. We've been here in America. The time comes, I'll just have to go. Boys in Vietnam are dying for what they believe, and I can't get on them for dying for what they believe, so I'll just have to, and they're dying to free foreign people 10,000 miles away, so I'll just have to suffer so that the so-called Negroes could be free, so they could have idol and the image they can look up to that didn't sell them out.
Do you think you can do more for your people by going to jail?
Oh, yes, sir. They thought they would weaken me and put fear in me by threatening me to go to jail and taking my earning power. They won't let me work in America. The government won't let me leave America where I can work. And I'm getting stronger, and this shakes up a lot of people to see that I'm this strong. It also makes other so-called Negroes strong who are facing the same problems, and in this way, I think I can do more for my people. They've never had a big black man that just stood up and identified with the struggle of his people 1,000%.
You're still the greatest.
Yes, sir, the greatest boxer that ever lived. I'm the first one that they had to take a title from in the history of all of the red, white, and blue American title. I'm the first one that they tried to make the world believe that wasn't the champion and that never has been beaten.
Muhammad Ali lost the prime of his career. He lost the prime of his career. We got to think about this. And I hate to use this, and please be aware that I'm only using this as an example. And I know sometimes it can feel like maybe I'm picking on people, but this is just the greatest example of how, or the latest example, or maybe the only one to this extent where it'll make the point. The government forced us to take that jab in 2020. And I'm not talking about, this is not about the actual jab. The government forced us to take that, or they said that we couldn't work. And I remember in New York City, there were a lot of people, I'm not going to say a lot of people compared to the people that decided to take it, but there were people that decided to walk away from their jobs. I remember people who worked in, like at some of the surgery centers that I work with, and they just said, nah, I'm done. Like if they're forcing me to take that, then I'm walking away. And one dude in particular, real cool dude, I actually forget his name off the top of my head, but real cool dude. He just decided to walk away. And I know people that worked for the city, they decided to walk away. There are people that gave up their jobs, like gave up their pensions or whatever else they gave up. The opportunity to earn a pension, I should say. And mostly everybody else just went along with it. Now, if you went along with it for other reasons, I'm not talking about that. And I'm not even really, I'm just using this as an example where government can force us to do something. And we've talked before about, you know, if you're in the military and if you're getting ready to, let's say, do something where your government, your general tells you, hey, we need to go kill this village. We need to go do this. We need to go do that. We need to attack this, whatever it may be, and it doesn't align with your conscience. Who do you ultimately serve? Who do you take orders from? So with Muhammad Ali being willing to give up the prime of his career, think about even the celebrities, just from a celebrity standpoint right now. Do we have any celebrities that would take a stand like this? I mean, we saw Colin Kaepernick. We saw, you know, Kyrie go through what he went through. And I guess Kaepernick's would be the only thing that we could say would be close to this. You know, and you can feel however way you feel from us, you know, whether it was right, whether it was wrong, all that. But you have to agree that he decided to sacrifice his career. And that's what Muhammad Ali decided to sacrifice his career. Muhammad Ali said that this was based on his consciousness. He didn't feel right going over there and killing Vietnamese people for what he believed was no reason. He didn't believe that that was the right thing to do. He didn't believe that we should be forced into doing something that violates his consciousness. And for it, he paid a heavy price. He couldn't work. What did he say? He couldn't. They wouldn't let him work here. They wouldn't let him leave to work somewhere else. And they actually convicted him. They sentenced him to 5 years. And when he's fined $10,000, they stripped his boxing titles. He had his boxing license revoked, and he lost his prime years from 1967 to 1970. Now, I don't believe that he ever actually went to prison because he appealed it, and then eventually it was overturned because the government, I guess the Supreme Court decided that the ruling that the government had improperly rejected his conscientious objector claim. So he didn't serve any time. However, he had a 3 to 4 year ban from boxing. What would we give up for peace? What would we give up for peace? What would we give up to find peace within ourselves? A lot of times we'll stay in positions that we know are causing us harm, that we know we're going into jobs that do not bring about peace in our lives, that cause a lot of whatever the chaos, cause a lot of chaos in our lives. There's something to be said here. There's something to learn from what Muhammad Ali did, if we want to. If we want to embrace this. And perhaps Muhammad Ali just had something that was a higher purpose than his career, a higher purpose than him earning money. He was serving a higher purpose. Now, you may not agree with his higher purpose. However, we got to admit that when somebody is willing to sacrifice these type of things, it does show a certain level of character that perhaps society doesn't embrace right now, or doesn't challenge us in ways. And a lot of times it may just be one person. Could you imagine LeBron James taking a step away for any cause outside of one that he feels just is good branding for him? Could you imagine? This is the same LeBron James that came out the other day talking about, well, I've never been to Israel, but I've heard nothing but great things. We talked about this before, how our athletes, the people that distract us, the people that are paid to distract us, they play a huge impact in how we see the world, in our perception of the world. It just is what it is. Let me move this over a little bit. So just some things to consider as we go throughout the rest of this show. Let me catch up with a couple of these comments. Critical said, I have my wife to thank. She is an RN. She said, we are not taking that. She said, no way it can be safe this fast out the gate. And I don't even want to make it just about the jab. I really didn't want to, because I don't want to scare people into it, because I really was hoping that, I hope it does work. I hope it doesn't have any bad reactions. And I'm glad that, for the people that it didn't have any reactions to, I'm glad that it is what it is. But I just want to, I'm more so talking about how our government forces us to do certain things. And we think about that as an excuse, how our job forces us to do certain things. How many of us have jobs where it's like we're presented with these, these roadblocks, or you presented with the challenge of, I can go forward with doing this and it'll be good for my career, but is this the righteous thing to do? Is this something that I would want done to me? I'm in healthcare. I see this stuff all the time. Doctors performing certain surgeries on people where it's like, I don't think they need a surgery, bro. This person doesn't need a surgery, but the doctor, but however, that's why when you go into the doctor's office, they asking you, what's the first question they ask you? Oh, what's your insurance? Then they check. Oh yeah, they got some real good insurance. Oh yeah. Yeah, they got great insurance. Yeah, you should have this procedure. We can recommend this. We can recommend. A lot of times that's what they're basing it off of. Why? Because that's their product. That's what they sell. That's their livelihood. So you think that they're going to prioritize your health and well-being over their livelihood? What do we put in our own minds? This is the society that we live in, a very selfish society rather than a selfless society. And we don't have principles. We don't have morals. We don't have values. How do I know we don't have these things? Because we still think it's okay for us to go to war and kill each other over disputes. We still think it's okay for us to go to war just because they have resources that I want. This is the society that we allow. So if we allow it to happen on the grand stage, then of course we're going to have it think it's okay to happen in our individual lives. All right, so let me keep it moving. Let me keep it moving. And Critical said, I held jobs that put my life on the line for what I thought was peace. And that's another point. A lot of times, if we put our faith in the government, like, I think maybe that's a good conversation to have. Perhaps there needs to be some sort of awakening where we realize that, hey, our government just doesn't have our best interests at heart. I know there used to be a lot more trust for the government in generations before. There used to be a lot more trust for the professionals that they put on TV. However, time after time, we've been shown that that's just simply not the case. Relying on a professional on TV that's getting paid by a network, or getting paid by a pharmaceutical company, or getting paid by a network that's getting paid by a pharmaceutical company that's running ads on their channels, however it goes, isn't the smartest thing to do. Do your own research. Like, we almost have to go an extra mile. And perhaps it's the same way, and a lot more of a difficult situation in a lot of ways, if you're in the military. You know, can you do your research and say, you know, this Iran thing, I'm not really with that. I don't think that that's right. Seems a little demonic to me. Seems a little colonizing to me, imperialist to me. Yeah, I'm going to sit this one out. Can you do that? It's an interesting question to ask, but we have a video for y'all. Let's take a look at this video. This video is going to dive into this exact topic that we're talking about. So it's a conversation, is it Colonel Douglas McGregor? Hold on. Is that what the COL means? Hold on. I want to make sure that I'm actually saying it right. Hold on. Y'all ain't gonna have me on here on live making it seem. Hold on. What's his position? What's Douglas McGregor's position? What's his position? Hold on. Let's see what his position is. So it's Douglas McGregor, Colonel. All right, I said it right. All right, I got it right. I'm about to say, all right, so let's take a look at this video. We're going to look at, we got the timestamp for y'all, so we don't have to look at the entire video. We're going to go to send that way Tucker and then won't have us shut down on the live stream. But let's take a look at this, and you give me your thoughts. Put yourself in his position, and you let me know what you would do. You let me know what you think about this or the position that he's describing.
But apparently none of them threatened to resign if the president went forward. What do you think of that?
Let me go back a little bit.
Reports that members of the uniformed military understood, advisors to the president understood that this was not, the things we were promising we would achieve were not actually achievable, and that this was a very unwise course. They knew that. But apparently none of them threatened to resign if the president went forward. What do you think of that?
Well, we have to understand something about the people in uniform. And I don't think we've ever had anybody that resigned in protest. The only one that I can think of who made his views on Vietnam heard was General Decker. He only served 2 years as Chief of Staff of the Army because McNamara went to Kennedy and said, he doesn't support our policy in Southeast Asia. He won't put any troops in. So Kennedy said, get rid of him. So he simply retired at the end of the first 2 years of his service as Chief of Staff. But we say in theory that, and this is something that goes back to Frederick the Great of Prussia, any officer whose conscience will not permit him to execute an order always has the right to refuse that order and resign his commission without prejudice.
Yes.
The problem is we don't let people go like that. If General Kane were to go in and say, this is it, can't do this, I'm tendering my resignation, he loses his retirement benefits and his pension.
That's a tough one. You lose your retirement benefits and your pension, and you probably get blackballed if you want to get a job in the same industry, or, you know, I mean, imagine trying to ask for a letter of recommendation after you were given orders and you couldn't execute by, you know, the higher ups, either the president or someone high up in his administration or her administration? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Do y'all think that do you think that this is why it's always a question mark for me when I hear that we were founded on Christian values, or Judeo-Christian values, as they try to say. It seems to lean more into the Old Testament with the Jewish, the Judeo part, rather than the Christian principles of Jesus. But the reason why I'm saying all these things is because if government can just put themselves over God, then where does that land us? Isn't putting anything over God just gonna, isn't that like what leads us to a demonic place? Like, isn't that devil worshiping? Isn't that worshiping false idols? Isn't this all these things that we talk about that we know that that it says it's going to lead us into a bad place, and then we wake up and, oh, we're in a bad place? When I hear Muhammad Ali, this is why I go back to giving Muhammad Ali credit. When you're willing to stand on the principles of your religion, I'm clapping for it. If it's going to lead us to make certain decisions where instead of prioritizing your selfish means, you're prioritizing the means of universal principles and not wanting to cause harm to others. And y'all know what I live by, I try to live by, or I embrace at least, is the golden rule of treating others the way that we want to be treated. What do we do? What do we do? Why are we allowing this type of thing? Why are we allowing our country that is supposed to represent us, right? Our government of our country is supposed to represent us, we the people, that was supposedly founded on Christian principles. Why do we allow it to violate God and force us to violate God? And then we sit and wonder why we're in this position of having a society that looks like Sodom and Gomorrah. Like, isn't our government just pushing us to get to a place where God initially decided to flood the planet for? Death and destruction, evil, a whole bunch of other stuff. What do we do in these situations? What do we do? Critical said America was founded in spite of religion. I wouldn't argue with that. I would not argue with that. Let me see what Paula wrote. Paula wrote, we no longer traffic young men, and I know you wrote this a couple minutes ago, sorry, I'm just getting to it. We no longer traffic young men in their millions to die on the Western Front in Europe, but still, any of us in this age of equality can end up as a cannon fodder for the elite. Michelle said, I thought we had freedom of religion. Well, this is where a lot of the confusion comes into play. You know, it's separation of church and state, freedom of religion. But is that only freedom of religion when the beliefs are aligned with what's okay and deemed righteous based on my government's rules? Just asking. Shout out to Andy in the building. Hope all is well, Andy. Yo, good morning, everyone. Been so out of the loop between this project, haven't caught up in the show in a month. What did I miss, man? We said you right back in. Don't even worry about it. You catch him right back in. It's funny that Critical mentioned Alan Dulles. Critical has been telling me to look up Alan Dulles a lot. I actually came across him maybe the other day when you talk about these people that have done some of these evil things. But Alan Dulles and Bush after World War II brought us this shit we called Earth. But let me ask you this, Critical, because none of these politicians could execute on any of the things that they execute on without us, the people, going along with it, right? So is it on the politicians solely? Is it on us? Like, who takes the accountability here? Because if we don't accept accountability, then it's almost as if we have no control in the situation. We have no input. But if we acknowledge that we have some type of control and we have some input and we can persuade this one way or another, then we have to accept accountability with it, right? It has to be one or the other. So once again, I ask, what role do we play in this? What role do we play in it? All right, let's keep it moving. Critical said, building your local communities, make strong ties. Danger is coming to America. Yeah, we've been inviting a lot of danger. What did we watch that video of John Mearsheimer saying that between 1971 and 2021, in that 50-year span, I believe he said that 38 million people have been killed by America? If you kill 38 million people as a country, and it's almost, I would love to look up, matter of fact, let's look up how many Americans have died since 1971 in combat or based on combat strikes. How many Americans have died since 1971? We'll do the same numbers. Have died between 1971 and 2021 from military action of other countries. I believe that's what he was talking about. So let's compare apples to apples. Let's see if ChatGPT is going to give us some accurate info. All right, so ChatGPT is still thinking. Let's see. The point that I was trying to say, and I'll give y'all my guess before I even look at it, based on if we killed 38 million people in that 50-year span, how many people do you think we lost? I would say it's probably what? 10% of that, maybe? Maybe less than that? I don't know. They're going through it. But the point is that I think it's safe to say that we've killed a lot more people than Americans have killed. So if we're putting out that type of energy, it seems like we've been inviting something to happen to us for a very long time. That's the point that I'm making. So, I definitely believe, I mean, danger has been coming. Isn't this what Malcolm X got in trouble, talking about the chickens coming home to roost? If you keep visiting death and destruction upon other countries, then it's almost like, damn, like, how has it not even hit us even harder sooner? We know what happened with 9/11, but when it comes to what we've done to other countries, imagine how many 9/11s that we visited upon other countries. Think about what 9/11 means to us. And then think about how many 9/11 situations we've caused in other countries. I'm just saying, like, we all believe in energy, right? We believe that we're living in an energy-based society. The things that you project out, the things that you put out into this world, and a lot of times they may bounce around here and there, but eventually, like, we'd be pretty naive to think that they're not going to come here. And now look what's happening. We got intelligence saying that a drone strike may be coming to California. And now we're at the point where we don't even know if it makes so much sense, honestly. It makes so much sense that something would happen in our country based on what we've been doing in all these other countries. And based on what they've been telling us about, Iran, they call us the big Satan, all this other stuff, all this propaganda, and that they push on us, not just that, but trying to make it seem like this country is so extreme, so radical. But then you look at the numbers of people that we're killing, and it's like, well, where do we fit in this? Where are we at along the spectrum? But it's almost to the point where now we won't even believe that it's actually Iran doing it. I don't even know if I believe if something happens. I don't even know. Even if they take credit for it, it's like, are there some strings being pulled here? Are there some strings being pulled here? Then people are going to say, well, yeah, Trump, a lot of people have already been saying Trump wants this war, so therefore he can delay elections. He can seek a third term. All these things are going to happen. We're seeing a lot of this stuff happen in front of our face where there's just a lot of distrust for our government. A lot of distrust for our government. And our government could only have this type of audacity when it comes to lying to us, misleading us, if we've gone along with it for how long before this? That's my opinion. Because we've gone along and we've just been complicit in all the lies, the death, the destruction that our government has committed, we partake in it. We support it. We go over there. We kill people. We do. Because we do all these things, now our government believes that, there are no limits when it comes to the destruction that we can cause among other nations. If it comes down to us, if we look at it it's good for business. Whether that's our politicians' pockets or whether that's American companies, gun manufacturers, weapons manufacturers, whoever it is. If the people at the top controlling things decide that it's beneficial to do certain things to other countries or even to Americans, we go along with it. Why? Because we're too busy bickering between arguing about silly stuff, and we all do it, but that's what they do. They have us arguing over whether or not boys should be playing sports against girls, and meanwhile, they're getting away with all the things that they're getting away with. Like, we'll stand on principles with that, but when it comes to killing other people, it's funny how we unite on those things. Right after 9/11, we all came together and united. Everybody felt more American. We felt like it was okay well, who did it? It was somebody they had a turban on, or it's a brown dude, Arab. Wait, you telling me they're from where? They're from Afghanistan? Well, or wherever they're from, we'll just use that to justify going to Iraq. And Bibi Netanyahu's been coming here saying that there's weapons of mass destruction. So we'll just, continue that war. George Bush's dad, he started it, let little Bush finish it. We allow this stuff. We rallied behind it. We got finessed. We got manipulated. We never even had a deep dive and investigation into how 9/11 happened. Was it an inside job? A lot of people believe that it was. Were people aware of it? Why is Bibi Netanyahu afterwards saying that this is a great thing for Israel? Think about, these are the people that are in control. These are the people in power. It's a great thing for Israel that 9/11 happened. And these are the same people that are pulling the strings on the current war that we're engaged in. Let's keep going. Let's see. We'll see what else they got to say about it.
Why?
So if you're in the military and you do that, you lose whether you're a sergeant or whomever you are, the law says if you resign in protest over something, you don't get to keep your pension and you don't get to keep your benefits. So it's really not true. Now, when you move to the civilian side.
And let me be clear, Andy, this was a very serious issue for me as well. These are one of the reasons why, after not voting for the previous two elections, I decided to vote for Trump, because all this woke ideology, pushing this LGBTQ nonsense on kids, pushing all this trans ideology, putting the books in kids, drag queens reading books to kids in school libraries or town libraries. It was a very serious thing. But if anybody looking, let's say if you were not in America, let's say if you're not human, or if you're just outside of America and you were looking at it, like, yo, these goofy idiots got boys playing sports against girls. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's something that is so silly it shouldn't even have been an issue. The fact that it is that they pushed it, this silliness, it's a serious issue. These were the main reasons why I decided to vote for Trump. The main reasons. I expressed it very loud and clear. How I could never bring myself to vote for people that were pushing the promotion of transgender ideals and influencing kids to that didn't feel comfortable in their gender to go change their sex. Gavin Newsom having laws in California where it's okay for teachers not to tell parents that the kids are socially transitioning their gender. I was scared out of my mind about where that would lead to. People that can't even tell us what a woman is. Democrat politicians can't even tell us what a woman is. So I didn't mean to say it was, but that's a silly thing. It's a silly, dumb thing. But that's how they get us engaged. That's how they get away with doing all these things. Why? Because there's radical on both sides. Well, I hate Trump so much that I'll go along with this. And it's done on both sides. This is what gets us caught up in it. So while we're bickering once again back and forth about, let me not say silly stuff, about bullshit. Is that the better way? About nonsense. We unite when it comes to let's kill those brown people. Those are the things that we united on. Right after 9/11, George Bush's approval rating shot up. Let's go kill some brown folk. Let's go kill some terrorists. Even though we've terrorized that entire region, even though we created our country on terrorizing people, it's not okay for those brown. If you're brown and your feet are on top of natural resources that we can take advantage of financially, yeah, nah, we can't afford that type of terror in this world. We got to go get that. It says a lot about what countries unite on and what they push back on, right? But this all comes down to we the people. None of these people could do any of these things without our support. So let me be clear on that. Yeah. I did not mean to minimize it. I'm just saying, I mean, could you imagine? Like, this is crazy. 20 years ago, could you imagine, hey, we're going to be debating on, what a woman is. We're going to be debating on whether or not a man can have a child. But this is how they use it. This is the argument, two sides of the same coin. This is how we get Trump. This is how I'm telling y'all, it happened to me. I'm like, I wasn't rocking with Trump. If you watch the show, I was an RFK guy. I was so excited that RFK was getting the leverage that he was getting, because that would lead us, even if he didn't win, it was showing us the importance of a third party and how a third party could potentially be successful in this election. Okay, then maybe in the next election be even more successful. Then in the next election, you get where I'm saying? So it's just 20 years ago, I couldn't imagine us having these type of conversations, debating whether or not a boy should be in a boxing match against a woman. A boy should be fighting MMA against a woman. A boy should be playing basketball, running track, stealing awards from women that worked their ass off their entire lives, swimming, stealing awards, crushing women's dreams. And the same people who are pushing for it are the feminists that are supposedly fighting for women's opportunities, but then you're on the same side where you're supporting a man with a penis jumping in a pool, taking away medals from women who have worked their whole lives for it. It's crazy. It's crazy. Maybe that's a better way. Crazy. Let's keep it moving.
So it's really not true. Now, when you move to the civilian side, the cabinet members, what's to stop them? Nothing. And that's not true. Now, when you move to the civilian side, so it's really not true. Now, when you move to the civilian side, the cabinet members, what's to stop them? Nothing. And that's where the resignations should take place. But that's the last place I would expect to see any. Yep. Even though you and I know a couple of them and consider them friends, I don't see any evidence for that. And the theory is, interestingly enough, if I do this, I poison the waters against me for the rest of my life. If you're in the military, I'll never get a job after, I leave. No one will hire me in the defense establishment. No one will hire me anywhere. And the civilian says, well, I won't get any cushy jobs, no bank boards, no industrial, concerns. Nobody will have me around. It's a terrible thing, because the ones who really have the flexibility to simply stand up and say, thank you very much, here's my resignation. I'm handing it to you right now. As of this moment, I resign as X. And you could walk out of the Oval Office, and that's just fine. Instead, what will happen, if we're going to project into the future, is if we don't change course, we're going to escalate. We're going to double down. In other words, well, if the last 2,000 bombs and 800 missiles didn't do it, we'll drop 500,000 bombs and 200 more missiles. You understand? That's where we're headed. Double down, escalate, escalate, escalate. And then at some point, it's going to dawn on everybody, this has gone too far. This is dangerous. Either because the Russians make it clear they won't tolerate, or the Chinese, or both, or because they suddenly look in the United States and people have said, wait a minute, I can't put gas into my car. I don't have a job anymore. I mean, you just go down the list, economic catastrophe will visit us.
And that's the only thing that we care about. That's the only thing that we care about. That's why I call BS when it comes to us being founded on certain principles. That's why I call BS. If the only time we care about killing other people and destroying other countries and meddling in other countries' business that we have no right to do is when our gas prices go up, we're living in a demonic society. If the only time we care about not killing people is if it's going to cause our gas prices to go up, we know we've been compromised. We know that perhaps we need a reset of our minds. We need a spiritual revolution. We are directly and explicitly violating God, violating law of energy, and we're intentionally, in a lot of ways, or at least complicit in creating a society that our kids are going to have to live in that is going to be more demonic than the one that we live in. That's how it goes, right? So I don't know. We'll listen to a couple more minutes of this, or a couple more seconds of this, and then we'll wrap it up and move on to this Terrence Howard conversation with Patrick Bet-David.
Then all the heroic figures in the cabinet will say, "Oh, I resign." You know, I never saw a more empty place than the West Wing of the White House and the Executive Office Building right after the election in 2020. That's what you'd see. Everybody just says, "Oh, I'm out of here."
Do you think, I mean, you're describing a system that doesn't serve the country it governs and that, moreover, has been revealed as useless, in fact, counterproductive. Like, everyone knows this isn't working now. You can't lie about it anymore. So does that mean we get a new system? Are there, after this war, however it's resolved, however it ends, do you think that there will be structural changes to the country?
I think we have to anticipate something like that happening because government, federal government, is a big part of our lives. I listen to people all the time say, "Well, I want a smaller government." Well, check your mailbox. What are you getting in the mail? What's coming into your bank account?
Yeah.
How much of it is government? How much of it is federal? People don't realize that what is the percentage of gross domestic product now for the government? It's somewhere in the 30+%. Back in 1900, it was what, 2%? You go back before the Civil War, less than 1%. I mean, the government was there, but it wasn't a big feature of the economy and involved in our lives. General Sherman, and everybody's heard of Sherman and his Civil War service. He became commander of the United States Army. In those days, we didn't have a staff system, so he just was designated commander-in-chief, U.S. Army. And he was so frustrated with the corruption in Washington that without telling Grant, who was then president, he packed everybody in the War Department up and he went to St. Louis. He said, "I'm getting out of Washington." And when Grant found out, he said, "Oh my God." And he said, "Why did you do this?" And he said, "This is a cesspool. It is full of corruption. I hate those people." And finally, Grant persuaded his old friend, "You got to come back to Washington." And eventually he did.
I want to stop it right there. And I want to also bring up some numbers, because in the background, I was looking up some numbers based on this 38 million. So let's look up, because when we said the other day that John Mearsheimer said between 1971 and 2021 that there were 38 million people that America is responsible for killing. Let's actually look this up. There's no official total. So this is what I asked ChatGPT, just so y'all are aware what's going on in the background. So I asked ChatGPT. Matter of fact, I'll pull it up on the screen for y'all. We don't want any manipulation of numbers. Let me see. All right, let me pull it up. All right, so this is what I'm looking at. So the 38 million is how many people did we kill during that time? So it says that the claim that the United States has killed 38 million people between 1971 and 2021 is not a number accepted by mainstream historians or casualty databases. It usually comes from a specific research project that used very broad assumptions. So let's get into it. The number is associated with the report from the Cost of War Project at Brown University. Their researchers estimated that the wars involving the U.S. since September 11 attacks, mainly Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, and Pakistan, caused about 37 to 38 million indirect deaths. Well, damn, I had said 1971. Obviously, that's quite after 1971. That's 2001. So now we're looking at 2001 and 2021, in which they're saying that these indirectly may have caused 37 to 38 million. So it says those 38 million are not people directly killed by U.S. forces. They include indirect deaths from things like famine, disease, destroyed healthcare systems, displacement, infrastructure collapse. Okay. So, and the reason why I looked at that, because before I looked that up, I wanted them to give me the casualties of how many Americans have died between 1971 and 2021 from military action of other countries. And then I said, also add civilian casualties as well. So that number came to, so the most honest answer is about 5,692 if you mean military plus officially listed DOD civilian casualties in those major operations, but there's no clean official total for all American civilians overall. So we're looking at, can we round up to 6,000? So we're comparing 6,000 people, and whether or not you believe the 38 million, let's say you do not believe the 38 million. So let's say this same project estimates that there's 900,000 direct violent deaths. So we'll do 900,000 compared to 6,000. So Americans directly, they're estimating in this, have killed 900,000 during that time from post 9/11 conflicts. And we've had 6,000, because we rounded up, Americans killed. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. So then I asked how many Americans have died during that time by indirect or direct means, because they were saying like, okay, there's a difference between indirect and direct. So I wanted to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. So these are the numbers of Americans that have died directly, or I guess this is This is the official total for both. So approximate combat hostile deaths of U.S. service members after the Vietnam era. So it says 7,400. This is after Vietnam. And then it goes up to 9,000 to 9,500 service members. September 11th was 2,900. Well, let's say 3,000. So the combined estimate, it looks like a total of 11,000 to 13,000 Americans have been killed. So whether you believe the 900,000, which is direct, or you also incorporate what our military strikes have caused, the indirect effects, whether it's starvation, whether it's destroying people's healthcare systems, whether it's disease, lack of medical care, what else they said, collapse of infrastructure, because that's what we typically do, right? We try to collapse the infrastructure, have the people there complaining about the government, then we slide in and then we have a justification for regime change. Case in point, Iran. It makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know about y'all. Why Iran? It seems like they're just reporting the news, or it would make a lot of sense. Let's say if we were in America and we had those numbers reversed and we had that many Americans killed compared to another country that had the amount of Americans actually killed to their country. Y'all get what I'm saying? So let's say if we were on the side where the death toll was far greater, wouldn't we be saying death to all these other countries that contributed in that? And matter of fact, forget saying it. We wouldn't be saying, forget saying it. We'd be actually going out there and killing people. We would never stand back and allow that to happen. So when we get propagandized by people saying, well, Iran, they scream death to America. They scream this, they scream that. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? What would you be screaming? What would you be screaming if you were Palestinian and you see what has happened to your land after you saw the other piece of the land that you had your home taken from you? What would you be saying? I'm just honest question. What would you be saying? Let's move on. Let's move on. So Critical said toppling a country's government makes us responsible for the deaths after also. So if that's the case, let's look at it. We got to be real. So if we're contributing to this amount of death in the world, who's doing the killing? I don't think that Donald Trump is the one actually pulling triggers. I don't think that he's actually the one pressing buttons and dropping drone strikes. This only works if we have a sick country, a sick society that has agreed that it's okay and justified for us to violate God's commandments and go kill other people. Why? Well, they told me to do it. Could you imagine being in school? Hey, Johnny, why did you punch Bobby in the face? Oh, well, they told me to do it. Isn't that something we learn at a very young age? Well, Johnny, you can't just punch Bobby. Even if somebody told you to do that, you should know better. But then when we get older, oh, why'd you do that? Oh, well, they told me. They told you to do all this? They told you to kill 38 million people? And we justify it by saying that, oh, they say bad words to us. They say bad words to us. We killed 38 million of them, but they say bad words to us, and they're the bad guys and we're the good guys. And then when something, if and when something happens in America, we're all going to get tricked into embracing that same mentality and then going to kill a whole bunch of more people, right? Because what happened between Israel and Palestine? Oh, well, they 1,500 people died, or let's say 2,000 people died. So yeah, so we just destroyed their country. That it's like it's one thing for us to call out Israel doing it, but do we ever look at what America does? How is it so obvious to say, like, yo, y'all are bugging out, y'all doing too much? We understand that you got to defend yourself, but this response, it's too much. We could say that, right? We're uncomfortable with how y'all respond to this situation based on the amount of people that were killed on that side compared to what was done to y'all. But what about America? Who's doing all this killing? Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. Terrence Howard, Patrick Bet-David. Interesting conversation that we shall get into. Let me share the screen. And Paula said, to be fair, all countries justify this. I don't know about that, Paula. I know that based on our country or our world being run with European colonization culture, that may be the case, but I don't know about that. I don't know. I can't say that I know that. Actually, I just was listening to a story on, what is it, the Netherlands? Is it the tribes in the Netherlands? I just was watching a YouTube video because I was trying to find some peaceful videos, and there was some like native tribes or something, and it's like in the Netherlands or something where they used to feud, and now they have peace amongst all these nations that used to just be killing each other and stuff. So I don't know. I really don't know. But the power countries, it's the power countries that we're aware of, right? So I don't know that. I can't say that. But let's move on.
To me, there's a couple ways with this, right? One of them is the actual debate, which is the theological debate you can have on faith. And that can go for hours, right? You know, Christianity, Muslim, you know, Jewish, you know, Seventh-day Adventists, you know, Mormon. We can go that route. That's one side. From your experience, you've traveled all over the world. You've been all over the place. You've been around everybody. Who do you think produces the best societies and produces the best, safest results?
Well, the Buddhists, for the most part, because they don't really put anything into a higher being. The Buddhists are more so the interconnectedness of the universe, you know, the entanglement and doing things based on karma, based upon, but without the idea that you want to gain something in return from it. That's more of a living way, you know, instead of a worshiping way. A lot of our worship now has become something perfunctory, you know, and it's transactional. If I do good, then I can ask God to help me, and people do things in hoping they're going to get something in exchange, instead of balancing and doing good just from the sake of doing good, you know, because it's the right thing to do. That's what not rule number 9 is: make way for life. You got to take. You're going to have to take in this world, but take responsibly and give as much as you take. If you're going to eat a piece of fruit, the Buddhist way, the human living way, be appreciative that you got the flesh of the fruit, but why not go and plant the seed? Why do we throw the seed in the trash? The embryo. Why do we throw the plant's embryo into the trash? Why don't, since it's sustained us, why don't we go and plant that somewhere? You know, and maybe when our children or one of our seedlings is out there in the world and somebody uses it, they'll also place it in a good place. So it's for the karma of it. But I don't follow, you know, any religion anymore.
Today, nothing.
No religion, but I pray constantly.
Who do you
know,
pray to?
um,
How does it start?
the universe, because I believe the entire universe is God.
You say, "Dear Heavenly Father," or what do you say?
I have a name.
You have a name. Got
I
it.
have a name.
But it's not "Dear Heavenly Father." You have a
No, it's
pray to.
because it can't just be Heavenly Father. It can't just be just a man up there, a male figure. It has to be both a masculine and a feminine side of the deities in order for there to be balance with it. But there's an energy, and the masculine has always been the electric. The feminine has always been the magnetic, you know, the discharging, the expansive. And so when I balance with that, and I see everything is God. There's no part that's not made from the Creator. It wasn't just man that was made in the likeness of God, you know, because when you look at at how everything is born, how it's raised, how it gestates inside of the body, it still takes the same curl. It still unwinds the same way, the same thing in hemoglobin, same thing in chlorophyll, same thing in the blood of the cephalopods. Just one or two trace elements is changed in the center of it, the nucleus. So there is nothing that's not made from the Creator. And so instead of God living, where in the universe is God? Is he, you know, near Alpha Centauri somewhere, or is he outside of the universe? No, I believe the universe collectively is God. Therefore, all of us are part of the Creator, you know. I'm as small as, when I want to be small, I think about Terrence Howard. But when I want to be large, I think about Terrence Howard in the universe. And Terrence Howard disappears, and then now I'm a part of everything.
Have you ever read Conversation with God? The book?
Yes.
What do you think about it?
I loved it.
Okay.
I loved
Was
that.
it recent or was it?
That was 20 years ago.
Okay. Got
That
it.
was 20 years.
I'm just wondering, like, you know, because
You know what I find fascinating in all of these conversations? It's just a reminder that if you don't buy into Christianity, if you don't buy into Judaism, if you don't buy into Islam, if you don't buy into these main religions, then it's like any other way that you see the world, you're looked at as like, oh my God, this person's crazy. If you don't buy into somebody saying, hey, I think that if you talk about a creator, we're talking about the creation of the entire universe, right? Not just the creator of humans, not just the creator of, dogs, but a creator of the trees, a creator of everything, right? So But I know that a lot of people, because I've had this conversation with a lot of people, when you believe that God is just the universe and how things move around in the universe, the everything, right? You to limit it to just Heavenly Father is a very limiting view on what God is to a lot of people. But if you don't embrace exactly how people are pushing things from a very Christian, Islamic, or Judaism way of seeing the world, then you're almost you're almost considered like an outcast. You're on the outskirts. But like we'll hear like Buddhism, right? And a lot of us won't even look into it. But were Buddhists involved in the Crusades? What were their uniforms when they were fighting in the Crusades? And I don't know if they were. Y'all tell me. How many wars have been fought based on Buddhism? Doesn't that at least give you somewhat of a like interest in looking into it? We've seen the wars that are fought based on me saying, hey, my path, this path in the religion that I believe in, this is the only way. No, this is the way and the only way. We've seen where that mindset leads to. But people won't even consider, or the other one is considered crazy. Just think about it from that standpoint. This is the society that we're living in today. And it's very easy for us. I sit back and I hear a lot of people criticize the society that we live in, how we're living in all this death, corruption, the world is in a bad place. Well, do we ever unpack and say, well, how did we get here? What are the leading way? Doesn't the way that we think, the way that we see the world ultimately determine how we got to this point right here? So it's almost like if somebody was in charge of a classroom, if you're in charge of a team, right? If you're in charge of a team and the team keeps losing, eventually you're going to start to look at, well, who's running the team, right? Then you're going to look at, well, what type of plays do they run? What type of offense do they have? What type of defense? Okay, they're doing bad. Okay, we need to maybe change some things up. But when it comes to this world that we're living in, that was already flooded because of the death and destruction, that we've seen to always be living in this war of the Crusades between religious groups, right? Do we ever look at it and once say, well, maybe we should look into some other ways of life that haven't been responsible for this amount of death and atrocity in the world? I'm just wondering. And of course, we see the numbers going down, right? We see the numbers going down in the room because that's what happens when you bring up these real conversations that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. And it goes to show us exactly what happens. When you start holding people accountable, when you start shining that flashlight in certain areas, because people just want comfort. People just want what they want to justify what they believe in. They want to sit on they don't want to change. They don't want to challenge themselves to see the world in a different way. And that's why we always end up in the very same place. I know that there's a lot of people listening to Terrence Howard right now and probably saying either slick stuff. I haven't been looking at the comments, either saying slick stuff in the comments or slick stuff in their heads about, oh my God, he sounds crazy. He sounds what exactly, which part sounds crazy? The part where he said that the Buddhists believe that, hey, you know, they don't worship this higher being of Heavenly Father. They don't worship it like that. They just believe in certain, this is what I heard, maybe I heard something different, universal principles of you should just do good. If you eat a fruit, what's wrong with repopulating the planet with the seed? Well, I thought, like, what type of problem do you have with what he's saying? And then when you couple that with the fact that, oh, well, also they don't kill people. But which aspect? Is it the fact that they plant the seed? Because are we just okay with the government taking over our food and all these different things? I told y'all that I'm reading The Richest Man in Babylon. It's funny that one of the lessons that was taught in this book was one of the reasons why you need to own your own home is so you can plant your own herbs, you can plant your own vegetables, plant your own fruits. So that way you control the source of the food that you're eating. But I'm just wondering, like, how did we get to this point where we've just adopted this way of life that seems to cause a lot of chaos and destruction in our world, but we just accept it? We can sit here and say, like, yeah, we shouldn't kill people. Of course you shouldn't kill people. But then we'll figure out how to justify it. Well, it's not killing, even though God said thou shalt not kill. It's not killing if you defend yourself. So therefore, oh, got it. That's why Israel has the right to defend themselves. Okay, that's why we have the right to defend ourselves when it comes to Iran. And they were getting ready to strike us. So, or Israel's getting ready to strike them. So therefore we had to strike, because if they got struck, then they would have struck us. That's how we justify stuff. This is how the godly people, us godly Christians, this is how we justify things. I'm just asking. Where would you feel safer late at night? In a Buddhist community or in a Christian society or Jewish society or Islamic society? Which one? I'm just asking the question. But we won't even think to consider a different way of looking at the world, and that's why we end up in the same place. So let me ask y'all this. If the people that are running the world, I think we can all agree on that, they're probably not the nicest people. They probably look out for themselves more than looking out for, let's say, all of humanity. Do you think there's a reason why they're not pushing certain things like Buddhism? Do you think there's a reason why, just like when we turn on the news, we can see that it's obvious that they're trying to put people against each other? That we could sit here and say Democrats, Republicans, they're just two sides of the same coin. The oligarchs, they're really controlling everything. So if the oligarchs wanted us to be Buddhists, we'd probably be Buddhists, right? You see where this conversation is going. It all comes back to the uncomfortable accountability aspect of a lot of the beliefs that we've all been embracing from a very young age. But we just don't want to have that conversation. So therefore, we'll never change. We can complain about society all we want. But if we never are willing to change the things that contribute to society becoming what it is, then we're just having circular arguments, which people may be cool with. People may be cool with these things. This is why it goes back to me, big bro. Universal principles. No, it's not okay for this group to go kill and commit a genocide against that group because they're the Amalekites. No, it's the universal principle of treating others the way that you want to be treated. If you don't want to be killed, which I don't think anybody wants to, then you shouldn't be killing anybody else. And there's no justification for it. Because as soon as we start justifying one thing, we know how this works. How many of us have been growing up bending the rules? You know, we know how this works. You can always, as soon as you justify or it being justified that, okay, I can kill this person because of these things, then what are you going to lean into when you just feel like solving a problem by killing somebody? I don't know else how to look at this. I don't know any other way how to look at this. We can circle around this conversation and talk about all these other things in the world and talk about this, talk about that. But ultimately, it comes down to, what are our universal principles? What are we okay with? When it comes to violating somebody else, what makes it okay for us to do so? Let's continue with the video.
What do you think about it?
I love that.
Okay.
I love
Was
that.
it recent or was it?
That was 20 years ago.
Okay. Got
That
it.
was 20 years
I'm just wondering, like, you know, because you'll hear words being used and it's, you know, the universe. I'm like, okay, so that's sometimes folks who read the book Conversation with God, they would speak the language that way. And then some people had a bad experience with a person who was a member of a church, and then there's a falling out. For me, I was an atheist 25 years. I had nothing but bad experiences. And I was like, I'm not even dealing with it. And then I met with a man whose name was Mano, and he said the most powerful thing to me. He says, if you judge God horizontally, you'll always be disappointed, you know, because people will let you down. They will, you know, but if you judge it vertically, you know, that's where the relationship begins, because it's you and him. And that's the element of faith, you know, because for somebody like you, would you consider yourself a very analytical guy? I think you're very analytical.
I'm analytical. I examine things, but I'm very emotional at the same time.
You wouldn't be in the business you're in if you weren't. So it's a good balance of both, right? Right brain and left brain.
Before he starts getting into the balance of left brain and right brain, I just want to address, because I know Paula said something earlier about that's how all countries operate. I just looked up simple, in Chat GPT. I said, are there any Buddhist countries? What are the Buddhist countries? They said, yes, several countries have large Buddhist populations or consider Buddhism their main religion. Let me share the screen. Y'all know I like to share the screen. I don't want y'all just believing what I'm saying. So let's take a look at this. Countries where Buddhism is the majority religion. Thailand, about 90 to 95% of the population is Buddhist. Cambodia, about 95%. So their official state religion, is Theravada. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that. Theravada Buddhism in both Thailand and Cambodia. Sri Lanka is about 70%, and they have a strong tradition of that same Buddhism. You see, I didn't want to say the word again, Theravada. Then Myanmar, about 85 to 90%. Bhutan, about 75%. So these are other countries with large Buddhist populations, but not the majority. So Japan, China, South Korea, Vietnam, Mongolia. I want to look at, so then I asked the question, how many wars have they fought in the last 50 years? And it says, if you look at the main Buddhist majority countries, Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Laos, and Bhutan, they have not fought many international wars with other countries in the last 50 years, but some have had internal conflicts or civil wars. Thailand has fought 0 international wars. Internal conflicts, ongoing southern insurgency since 2004 in Muslim majority provinces. Thailand has mostly avoided major wars and focuses on internal security issues. Myanmar, international wars, 0. Internal wars, long-running civil wars with ethnic armed groups, major escalation after the 2021 military coup. I wonder who was actually, we should look up who was actually, well, yeah, never mind. Myanmar is one of the longest running civil conflicts in the world. So civil wars, not international in Myanmar. Sri Lanka, international wars, 0. Civil war, Sri Lanka, civil war between the government and the Tamil Tigers. This was a large and deadly conflict lasting 26 years. So that one was a large and deadly conflict, civil war. Wars in the late 1970s and 1990s, Cambodia, conflict with Vietnam after the Khmer Rouge period, civil war that lasted into the early 1990s. Since the mid-1990s, Cambodia has been relatively stable. Laos is 0 in the last 50 years. International war, some small insurgencies, but nothing like a major war. So nothing internally. Bhutan, 0 wars. Only one notable military operation in modern times. There was a 2003 operation against Indian insurgent camps. The last 50 years, major conflicts involving Buddhist major countries, 1 major civil war, 1 ongoing civil war, 1 regional conflict period, Cambodia, major insurgencies in Thailand, almost none in Bhutan. So roughly 3 significant wars, conflicts among these countries in the last 50 years. Buddhist majority countries have had far fewer international wars, but like most parts of the world, they still have experience in internal conflicts and civil wars. Would y'all say that that's better than a lot of the Christian, Islamic, Judaism cultures? I'm just asking. I'm just like, can we ask a straightforward question? And Critical brought up a good point that a lot of these countries have issues with China doing the same thing to them that America does to others, which is creating the chaos in their countries for leverage. And you're right, that's an excellent point. You see the numbers go down significantly? That means we're talking about something real. I'm just asking, like, this is not a bias, bro. Like, see, this is what happens when you have an attachment to something compared to when you don't. I don't have an attachment to anything. I just want to figure out what can be done to get this moving in a more peaceful place. I don't have an attachment. I don't have a bias. I don't have an allegiance to a particular gang. If you're in a blood gang, then obviously you're going to have certain bias when it comes to how you look at your particular gang compared to how you may look at Crips, GDs, BDs, and all these other things, right? All these other gangs. If you're in the Jewish mafia, then you may obviously favor the Jewish mafia over, let's say, the Italian mob or something like that. It's just how, whenever we have an allegiance to a particular group, we tend to have bias and allegiance to not only that group, but how that group lives their life, how they justify certain things, what their culture is, how to operate in that society. So going back to what Paula said, Paula, I don't know if every single country believes in the same principles that we believe in. And clearly it's shown that, you know, their wars are significantly less than ours. I don't know. Now, were there still internal conflicts? Yeah, there were still internal conflicts in these places. Matter of fact, let's actually look up, because when we say internal conflicts, what are the death totals? What are the death totals in these conflicts of Buddhist countries? And I don't know what they're going to be. I'm just asking the question. Ooh. Hold on, let me share the screen. These death totals are high in some of these places. So Sri Lanka, their civil war from 1983 to 2009, 80,000 to 100,000 people. That's a lot. That's a lot. Civilians, 40,000 to 60,000. That's a lot. And I would say the same thing to them that I would say to America. Here you are, a Buddhist country that does not believe in a lot of these things. And I have no idea what happened in these conflicts, but I'd be pretty confident in saying that the decisions probably were made by a lot of people in positions of power, whether on the group that was revolting or whether it was the government. Just like I believe when it comes to America. I just think that the people have to go along with it. None of these wars would be fought if the people in these countries didn't go along with the orders that were given by the people at the top. Let's keep going. Let's see what Cambodia is. Cambodia is, after the fall of the Khmer rogue regime, Cambodia experienced continuing conflict through the 1980s and early 1990s. Estimated deaths in the later civil war period, 30 to 50,000. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. One thing America can say is we haven't had these is it considered civil wars? Like what? We haven't had a civil war as far as we haven't had a civil war. You can't look at these type of things that we've experienced. I don't think that, I think from a civil war standpoint, America hasn't had what these countries have had, these ones that we just named. Bhutan and Laos, no major wars in the last 50 years. No major wars. Maybe we need to study what's going on in Bhutan and Laos. Maybe we should study those things. So rough combined estimate, 200 to 3,000 deaths across major conflicts in Buddhist majority countries over the past 50 years. So we're comparing 200 to 300,000 to whatever number we agree on. We saw there was 900,000 indirect deaths, you know, some estimates, and then people said 38 million based on all the other infrastructure challenges that we've caused with other countries. So sounds like the Buddhist countries got some work to do as well. That's my opinion. Hold on, let me get to it. Hold on, let me get back to the video with Terrence. But y'all tell me what y'all are thinking. And Paula, no, we were just going over some of the numbers. Paula just got back on. We were just going over some of the numbers based on these other countries. I just happened to look up, well, hold up, are we causing as much destruction in the world when it comes to the Buddhist countries and the countries that believe in that spirituality? So we were just going over some of those numbers, that's all. All right, let's so Paula said that the Buddhist uprising of 1966 caused the Vietnam War. I have to look into that. I'm not sure about that. I don't know anything about that. We'll have to look into that. Hold on. Paula said Thailand and Cambodia were just lobbing bombs at each other. Thailand is a totalitarian country. So then I would say the same thing to them that I would say to us. But Paula, I would ask, you know, is there a valid comparison with 200 to 300,000 people being killed by multiple countries compared to the 38 million estimated total that America has contributed to? Maybe you think that that's comparable. Maybe that's justified. I don't know. But and Chris said you can conflate these small countries' lack of major conflicts to a religious underpinning. These countries are poor and probably don't really have major militaries to fight with. Where do I want to go with this? Where do I want to go with this? So I think where some people will go with it is to say, see, Buddhists kill people too. Let me show you how my mind works. Or a lot of people will go and say, see, Buddhists kill people too. That's why, you know, we shouldn't be. Get rid of that too then. If it's something that leads to us killing each other, then that's where my mind would go. Now I have to look up all these things, right? If that's not the way, if Buddhism is not a way of life that is causing us to not kill each other as much, get rid of that too. Nothing's off the table when it comes to me. But would you be okay with what I just said regarding Buddhism if it was regarding your religion? That's the freedom that I have by not associating myself with any particular religion. Nothing's off the table for me. There's nothing that is off the table. If there's peace on the other side that we're trying to get to, nothing's off the table. So where a lot of people may be hearing this and trying to justify, well, yeah, see, we killed 38 million people as Christian Americans. But look, they kill people too. All right, so get rid of that too. That's where my mind goes. Just being real with y'all, that's where my mind goes. If it's not working correctly, all right, this ain't working, or we need to go into this, you need to look into some of these things. But I don't know. Maybe I need to look up, you know, from a manifest destiny, from a doctrine of discovery standpoint, what happened with a lot of these countries. Maybe we need to look into that, but let's keep going. So Critical said that human nature kills. Bro, I disagree. I disagree completely. And I think that when you say that human nature kills, bro, this is the defeatist mentality, bro. I got to be honest with you. Human nature does not kill. Little kids at the park are not killing each other, bro. Little kids playing in the sandbox they're not trying to kill each other. They're trying to hug each other. You ever see little babies get around each other? They trying to hug and kiss each other. I just disagree. I get why you would say that human nature is to kill, but I don't think that that's human nature. I think that that's humans accepting the devilish ways of the people that control our societies to the point where we now believe that that's just human nature. That just shows that the level of control that they've pushed on us has worked. That has just shown that the level of control that they've pushed on us has worked. When people just start to say, this is exactly what we say when it comes to religion and comes to other things. Oh, that's just the way things are. Oh, damn. Let me not you ever been given a task to do something and then you walk away because you're tired of trying to figure out a solution to it. So you say, oh, nah, there's no answer to it. That's just the way that you just haven't found the answer yet. Be more creative. Human nature, I do not wake up wanting to kill somebody. I do not wake up every day wanting to kill somebody, and I don't think that the majority of us do. Now, what we do wake up with is if something happens to us, the natural response is to get angry, to get upset, to have confrontation. But I don't think that that's human nature. I think that that's just us growing up in a society where it's like, this is what happens. We have a society and you create, let's say if you have two dogs and you only have one piece of meat, you starve the dogs. You create limited resources for people. You starve the dogs, and then you throw one piece of meat in there while the dogs are starving. And now they're fighting over a little piece of meat. And then we say that's just it's just dogs' nature to just fight and kill. Is it? We hear a lot about this when it comes to pit bulls. Pit bulls, pit bulls are just mean. Like they're just naturally pit bull. No, that's how people breed pit bulls. That's how I would look at it. No different than, so let me actually say this. So if we, based on this same logic, if we say that human nature just kills, do we also say that black people are just naturally more violent? Like black Americans are naturally more violent? It's just the nature of black people. It's just the nature of niggas. But I'm just trying to use the same logic, because what we're doing is we're saying that because humans kill, that must be the nature of humans. So if we look at that same logic and apply it to different areas, well, because black people are more impoverished than white people, or because black people are, that's just the nature of black people? Do we just say that? Is the nature of black people to just have no money, to be poor? Maybe some people will say yes. Listen to this. Oh my God, Paula. No one breeds wolves. Nature breeds wolves. Being in the jungle breeds wolves. But as humans, that's why we have a civilized society. We're not living in the jungle. Like, you just kind of made the point that I was making over limited resources. Wolves don't have refrigerators. They can't plant seeds or whatever. They don't have they're animalistic. So if you want to say that, well, I don't think that any animal or anything is bred or has a certain nature to kill. I don't believe that. Now, what I do believe is that the animals adapt to their environment. People do have a nature to eat, right? So just like humans adapt, and we've adapted to a society where we think that it's okay to kill people. We think it's okay to, those radical brown Muslims, it's okay to kill them. That's what we've adapted to. We've adopted that type of mindset. But do Americans just grow up with human nature thinking that, those brown Muslims, like they're radical? So let me ask you this, Paula. Do you think that Palestinians or brown or Muslims, or where does it stop when you say that? And critical, you answer the question as well. When you say that humans are born, human nature is to kill. Does it stop on humans, or do we also categorize with certain demographics of humans? Like, is it the nature of this group of humans to behave in a certain way, or this group of humans to behave in a certain way? Maybe Jewish people really are the chosen people. I'm just saying they're far more successful and have a lot of power and leverage compared to a lot of the other dominating religions, in which outnumber them a lot. I'm just trying to make sense of all this. That's what I'm trying to do. Yes, Paula, humans didn't have refrigerators. That's why. Am I looking at this a different way? When we were living in caves, do you think we were living more ruthlessly? When some of us were living, I don't know if everybody was living in caves. Is human nature not to adapt, or what people adapt to their environment, correct? If y'all, damn. Can I get a real quick? Anybody can you put If you believe that human nature is to kill, please put a 1 in the chat. And if you believe that human nature is not to kill, please put a 2 in the chat. I believe that this is a learned behavior. I don't think that it's nature. I think that it's nurture. But I would just love to get, so if you believe that humans' nature is to kill, please put a 1 in the chat. If you believe that human nature is to not kill and that it's more of a learned behavior, put a 2. Because maybe I'm just the odd one out and maybe I just see things completely different, which has been, trust me, I've been there before. Sometimes I may be right, sometimes I may be wrong. So Critical believes that it's our human nature. We'll wait for a few other people. We'll wait for a few other people. So Michelle said 1 and 2. Mama Lay said 2. But culture, so Paula, if you're saying that culture is important, this is incredibly complex. I think it's actually very simple. Culture is made by humans. That has nothing to do with nature. Black culture has nothing to do with human nature. Black culture has to do with putting a particular type of marketing out into a particular environment based on certain people living in certain circumstances, and that turns into culture. I don't think that that's nature. Phyllis said 2. Bubbles said 1 and 2. Yeah. And what's wild about it is this. Let's look at it from this standpoint. If it's kind of 50-50, I guess, in this group, then is it safe to assume that in the rest of the world, I would say that most people probably would lean towards 1? I think that most people in the world believe that human nature is to kill. And once you believe that, in my opinion, let me ask you this. If you believe that human nature is to kill, and God created humans, then is God the devil? Hold up, let me get on the screen. If you believe that human nature is to kill, and Bubbles, I saw you writing Christ is King the other day in the chat. I believe that was you. If you believe that human nature is to kill, and God created humans, and don't give me the free will argument, because free will is nurture, not nature. If you believe that human nature is to kill, and God created humanity, then is God the devil? All right, so let me, I'm thinking about it. I'm processing this stuff too. If history is any indicator, it is absolutely human nature. What history? What history? Which history? Which history we talking about? We talking about the history that we learn in American schools? The history that is largely written by the people that conquered the other people? So if we live in a society, right? This is the question that always comes to mind. It's like, if we live in this society where the majority of people believe in this might is right mentality, right? Manifest destiny, doctrine of discovery, European colonization. If they don't believe in Christ, we can take their land. If all of the people that were dominant and believed in more extreme violence are now, they conquered, right, the world, because that's the world that we live in. They've conquered the world, and that's our society. That's why the majority of us, I believe, do believe that human nature is to kill. And those are the people that are writing history. And we've all known that history is usually slanted and biased based on the country that wins, you know, being held in high regards or in favorable regards. Then what history are we talking about? Perhaps all the peaceful people just got killed off. Perhaps all the peaceful people just got pushed to a certain point where it's like, damn, how can I be peaceful? Because even me, if I'm trying to be peaceful, if you come and try to kill my family, am I still going to be peaceful? You get what I'm saying? So, and then I guess you would ask, well, if I was truly peaceful, would I just allow it to happen? But if I keep allowing it to happen and I see what happens to those people, if I keep allowing it to happen, I'll disappear and you'll never know about my history. And if I decide to retaliate, then people will say, well, damn, he was never peaceful in the first place, because look, as soon as something happened, he responded with war, right? So I'm just asking these questions. These are just questions that come to mind. These are just questions that come to mind. And Finn, that's an excellent point. There's killing in self-defense, and then there is murder. Like Paul has said, it's not human nature to murder. That's nurture, not nature. If I kill in self-defense, to me, it's still wrong. It's still like, based on how I look at it, based on the universal principles, if I kill in self-defense, it's still wrong. But I'm not saying that I wouldn't do it. I'm not saying that I wouldn't do it. I'm not saying that at all. I want to be very clear to y'all. If somebody tries to kill me right now, it would be very hard for me to believe that I would not try to kill them before they kill me. If it was a life and death situation, but it would still be wrong. Why? Because it puts out a certain energy to the rest of the world. Now we're justifying killing. As soon as killing is being justified, then now we can always find reasons to justify it. Look at what's happening right now in Israel and Palestine. Palestine just got destroyed based on self-defense. How? We just bombed Iran, and Israel just bombed Iran. And we're saying that it was self-defense. They didn't bomb us. They didn't strike us. But we literally say it was self-defense. Well, they were going to. So therefore, you're like, wait, what? Like, that's how this works. And Finn, what I'm saying is, yes, if someone hurts my family, what's the first thought that I have? Absolutely. But Finn, I'm sorry, Critical, not Finn. Critical, I grew up in this society. I've been nurtured by this society. I've been nurtured by this way of thinking, of adapting to what this society is. But do y'all not believe that we can change what society is? Do you not believe that we can change culture? If we've seen this happen in a microcosm on some areas, do we not think that this can happen and spread throughout the world? Isn't that the whole point of believing in God? Isn't that the whole point of Jesus bringing his principles and dying for us, to spread this way of thinking that more aligns with what I'm saying, I believe, more than us just sitting back and saying, like, nah, killing is human nature. If killing is human nature, then what's the point? Like, what, like, us embracing the, don't we realize that when we embrace the mindset of killing being human nature, that is exactly what that, like, the devil's winning. the devil's winning. So Bubbles wrote, "My sister was murdered by her husband." Wow. I as I'm reading it, I'm processing it like, Bubbles, my condolences. My condolences. Terrible, terrible. My dad definitely wanted to kill him, but didn't. I would say that your dad moved in a more godly way. I'm sure that your dad, like you said, wanted to, but decided not to. So I think that shows us that we can adjust or even adapt to certain things that we've adapted to in this society, adapted to our way of thinking, adapted to having certain feelings of retaliating. IROC, shout out to my girl IROC, man. I love IROC. IROC said we can evolve. Like, and this is what I don't get. I feel like we've evolved into every other area of our lives. We've evolved. Like, why do we look at when we do negative things as that just being our nature, human nature, but then the positive aspects, we feel like, oh, we may or may not be able to evolve into those areas. We've evolved into this negative way of thinking. Everything that society is right now has been an evolution. Because if we're saying that it hasn't been an evolution and that this is just always has it's been, then we got to blame God because God created this. So we can't have it all ways. Either we evolved into being so corrupt or we were just born to be corrupt. And if that's the case, we need to address God. But if we've evolved into it, then we need to address ourselves. I don't know any other way of thinking it. If we're looking at this from a solution-oriented point of view, how else do we look at this? Do we just sit back and accept this? What did JFK say? If you just sit back and accept, oh, peace is impossible, that's a defeatist mentality. You know what else is impossible? It may be impossible to play where's Phyllis at? It may be impossible to play a perfect game. It may be impossible to play a perfect game. But you know what? Do you think when I go into the game that I'm striving to get a B? No, I'm still striving to play perfect. I'm striving to achieve a perfect game. I thought that was the God standard that we strive for. I'm not going into it saying, well, you know, I'm trying to get a good grade on this test, but it's probably impossible. Like, no, I'm getting a good grade on this test. I'm playing the perfect game. And then you shoot for the star, you aim for the moon, right? And then you miss, you land on the star. Like, isn't it? I thought this is what we were supposed to embrace. So Mama Lay said, is instinct the same as human nature? Not sure. I think that instinct and human nature is completely different. Instinct, in my opinion, is determined based on the situation that you're currently in. We can't say, this is what I mean. All we have to do is look. Do you think that it's an instinct of a baby who's playing in the sandbox to find a little something in the sandbox and try to stab the other baby in the sandbox? I don't think that that's instinct. I just watched matter of fact, I'll show you a post that I put up, or a post, not that I put up. I just saw this the other day. Hold on. I think it was yesterday. I saved it on my Instagram. And I actually agree with it. But then I started thinking and I saved it. I don't know why I saved it. The last post that I saved, here it goes. Hold on. Let me share the screen. Look at the last post on Instagram that I saved. Is it on the screen? There we go. The last post that I saved was this right here. And it says, raise strong boys or prepare for lost men. And I was looking at it and I was like, yeah, like at first I'm like, hey, you got to raise strong boys, man. Society, this world is a dangerous place. This world's a tough place. And then I was thinking about it. Literally, I just saved this last night. And then I was thinking about it and I said, damn, is that like, I agree with it. I don't want to raise a weak boy at all. But is strong the same thing as violent? You get what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that they're saying violent here, even though what we're seeing is being able to protect yourself. Now, I don't necessarily think that, but what I think is at a certain point when you're just trying to raise boys, let's say, that are strong and can defend themselves and all these things that boys need to be able to do, and men will eventually need to be able to do. At a certain point, we may get misguided in a way to confuse strong with violent. Like, we want to raise strong, right? Young, brave, strong people, strong men, especially, right? But we have to be very careful, because then we can easily get manipulated into turning that strong into violent. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. But, hopefully I have me a little man, soon, hopefully, and he will be, y'all will see. Like, I think it's my obligation to raise a young man that is able to protect himself, and whatever that means, to whatever extent, right? But I'm hoping that that also brings about a certain level of confidence to where that young man does not feel the need with insecurities and other things to always prove themselves and then to get into certain positions where they have to engage in a lot of violent situations. It's almost like I want to build up my young man so he can avoid certain situations, right? But it's and this is my point, Critical. I think we're saying the same thing. Environment shapes outcomes. So if that's the case, can't we change the environment? If you take that kid out of that impoverished, dangerous, violent hood, and if you without any leadership, where a lot of the influences in the community are doing negative things, violent things, and you put that kid in a different situation, isn't that, if animals can adapt that way, then why wouldn't humans be able to adapt? Paula said it earlier that nobody bred a wolf, right? Okay, nobody bred a wolf, but isn't a wolf that's raised in the jungle different than a wolf that is raised in somebody's home or in the zoo or something like that? I just saw a video of this man carrying a wolf and like kissing a wolf like it was a dog. As a matter of fact, how many animals, there's elephants. Maya was just telling me that there's elephants, I believe, in India that are different than the elephants there's elephants that can't go to the wild because they weren't raised wild, right? So they're not equipped to deal with the things that they're not violent enough. They're not strong enough, all these different things in order to adapt with the violent setting that's out there in the world. Damn, I can't believe it's 10:11. I had a whole video of Wayne Dyer. I'm sorry, not Wayne Dyer, of Napoleon Hill that we were supposed to get into. Wait, I'm sorry. Why did I just sit down? Hold on. You can tell my legs getting tired, I guess. I just sat down like it was. We'll finish the rest of this video, and we'll finish the rest of this video. That's all I'm gonna say. Let's finish the rest of this video. We gotta get out of. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get y'all out of here, and then we'll finish up with some breath work.
How do you manage faith? How do you deal with faith?
Well, like you said, with conversations with God, I believe every conversation is with God because everything is divine, And so when I deal with people, a gentleman told me once, he said, in every person you meet, there's this little piece of God in them. That's who you talk to. And then I added to that, but make sure they see it in you first. And so that's how I deal with faith. I approach everyone as if I'm talking to the Creator. And I wish I had talked to that gentleman at Disneyland. Like, okay, wait a minute, this is God right here, instead of this insignificant worm that's stopping me.
He's going to connect you. He's going to be like Terrence. I'm so sorry, because Terrence Howard is on Connect. If you got any questions, you can always connect them here. We're going to put the QR code below. But you ever heard of Hafiz, the poet Hafiz?
No.
He's a Persian poet. I'm trying to find this thing because of what you said. I read this many years ago, and he said something about, man, I got to find this because I think you would love it. He says, okay, God is speaking through everything, through the wind, through the flute, through your own breath. So sometimes it kind of goes to, and if you go a little bit deeper in it, he says sometimes God speaks through you. He uses human beings as a way to communicate to you. That's, and by the way, Hafiz is like Rumi. I'm sure you've heard of Rumi. If you know Rumi in Iran, many times they'll talk about Hafiz as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Terrence Howard.
All right, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there.
But in the field of
Yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. I think that what Terrence Howard finished off saying, I wish that we would have led with that. If you talk to this is the golden rule of treating others the way that we want to be treated. When I hear him say that every person has a piece of God in them, and he tries to speak to that person as if you're speaking to God, no matter who we're dealing with. And that's obviously something, well, let me just say me. I was going to say it's obviously something we all fall short of. It's something I fall short of, that I need to be better at 100%. And then he also added that, and I make sure that they see that God in me as well first. So it's an interesting conversation for sure. Interesting conversation. Hold up. Did I miss something? Hold up. It's been a while. It's been a while. Did I completely miss something? Hold on. Hold up. Did I see a super chat come through? Where is it at? Did I miss it? Hold on. Damn. Hold up. Mama Lay pulling up. Appreciate it, Mama Lay. Oh my God. I completely missed this. Hold on. And this was a great point. Thailand incorporates meditation into schools. 1 million children across 5,000 schools focusing on fostering inner peace, mindfulness, and compassion. I guess this is really what it comes down to me. You know what? If you believe that it's truly human nature and that we can't change, if you believe that it's human nature, well, I guess there's different ways of looking at it. Some people may believe that it's human nature to kill, but still may believe that you can evolve, even if it is human nature. But there's other people that may believe that it's human nature for us to kill and people can evolve. So I feel like I feel like those are different things. I hope that we're surrounding ourselves with people, regardless of whether or not you believe that it's human nature, regardless of whatever you believe that is human nature. I hope that we can still believe that, we can evolve. So yeah, but this is an excellent way to look at it. Excellent way to look at it, Mama Lay. Whereas Thailand incorporates meditation in schools. We said that if 1% of the population would meditate, that there would be significantly more peace on earth. Now, I don't know how people are going to look at that, and if 1% is realistic, or if people are okay with striving to do something for things being a percentage better, unless it's going to change everything. Like, I hope that us moving in a positive direction, even if it's 1%, let's say, even if the 1% is impacting just 1%, even though I think it compounds and will impact more. But isn't that significant? If it saved one life, if it saved 2 lives, if it saved 100,000 lives, if Buddhist countries, commit less killing, is it worth looking at? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out with y'all. So definitely appreciate the super chat, Mama Lay, as always. Every single contribution that you have, super chat, and obviously all the other things that you do. It's definitely appreciated. It's definitely appreciated. All right, so all right, let's move on. I was going to do something a little bit longer. I promised Finn that we would do the longer guided meditation, but it's already 10:17. I got to get out of here. So let's pull up our, let me try to find it. We're going to do our 4-7-8 breathing technique. Y'all don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. All right. Oh, I hear a little baby in the back. Did y'all hear that? All right, let me pull this up real quick. We'll share this on the screen. So as always, we're going to be very intentionally focused on every inhale, inhaling positive energy, and we're going to hold it, process it, and then we're going to release for 8 seconds on the exhale, and just making sure that we're getting rid of any limiting negative energy in our system. So we're going to go through this 4 times. All right. So you can either close your eyes and listen to the sound of the bell, which is going to start with an inhale, or you can follow the yellow dot, whatever you choose. All right. So let's start off with our inhale. Ready, begin. Inhaling positive energy. Hold it. And we're going to exhale that negative energy on the exhale. All right, after this, one more time. Be very intentional. All right. Y'all know what we come here to do. Elevate on purpose. All right. What is our purpose? Maybe that's something for us to look into. And if this is a tough uphill battle with us trying to find peace, bring about peace on this planet, then how exciting is that? How exciting is that, especially being on Earth right now, having the opportunity to make an impact, as we all do, on what this current culture is, to perhaps save humanity, to perhaps save peace within ourselves, whatever it is, whatever our goal is. We have an opportunity right now to contribute to society and whatever society we want to create and leave for the next generation. So figure it out. Let's figure it out. We can figure it out internally, then we can figure out how to align with other people that have a shared mission, shared goal. So onward and upward, strength and honor. Once we figure those things out, the impact that we want to make on this world, that we like to call our personal legend, then we can figure out, back into, okay, what's the plan in order to execute these things? And that's what I mean when I say we got to get to that bag. That's all the things that we're focusing on. All right. So what do I like to focus on? Peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and everything we do, integrity, balance, of course, and a lot of perspective. So appreciate y'all as always. Love y'all. Let's have an amazing weekend. Let's challenge ourselves. And maybe let's look up some other societies that maybe have been doing things in a better way than we've been doing. Maybe that's what we'll discuss on Monday a little bit, even touch on it. Because a lot of times we can grow up in this world, or live in this world, I should say, and just think that the things that we see in our day-to-day lives, if it's Europe or America, that these are the things, or the Middle East, or, this is how the rest of the world is. This is how every part of these areas is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but let's look into it. So appreciate y'all as always. Y'all have a great weekend. Love y'all. And got the rose from Michelle. Definitely. Hold on. What did Michelle write? Michelle wrote, just me trying to make the world more peaceful. I think that's the goal. I think that's the goal. Paula said she brings the spice. Paula, you're allowed to bring whatever it is that you want to bring. You're allowed to bring whatever it is that you want to bring. Big bro Steve, shout out to Big Bro Steve. Peace starts within and with what in which we have complete control ourselves. I agree, big bro. I agree. Shout out to Big Bro Finn. The divine was never somewhere else. It was placed within you, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beyond the fear, behind the conditioning. Not a throne in the sky, but a light in the mind. Paula said, spicy mayonnaise out. Bubble said, blessed day, everyone. Mama Lay said, oh, we already went over that one. Have a blessed weekend, family. All right, y'all have a good one. And if I missed the comments, anything that y'all put, apologies. Did I miss one? Yeah. Love y'all, man. Let's build.